Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Imagine holding a simple $quarter 1984 USA coin in your hand and discovering that this seemingly ordinary 25-cent piece, a coin millions of people have spent without a second thought, could be worth an astonishing $73 million because of rare errors, hidden mistakes, and astonishing mint anomalies that collectors around the world would fight for. And today we dive deep into the unbelievable story behind the 1984 quarter. A story that has turned a basic piece of circulating currency into one of the most sought-after treasures in numismatic history. And if you think errors on coins are nothing more than harmless imperfections, you are about to discover how a single deviation in the minting process, a single misalignment in the die, or a shocking planchet irregularity could elevate a 25-cent coin into the realm of ultra-elite collectibles. So let us peel back every layer of possibility surrounding the 1984 quarter. A coin produced at the Philadelphia Mint during a period when the United States Mint was transitioning technology, fighting against minting defects, introducing improved die techniques, and enforcing new quality control standards. Yet even with all that, mistakes happened, and those mistakes are where the money resides, because in numismatics, an error is not a flaw, it is an opportunity, a doorway to a completely different world of value, rarity, and historic significance that goes far beyond face value. So what kinds of errors could possibly elevate a single 1984 quarter to a figure as jaw-dropping as $73 million? And how does such a scenario even form in the minds of collectors, historians, and auction houses who determine value based on rarity, desirability, and the long-term demand of the market? It begins with the strike, the moment when the blank planchet meets the die, when a tremendous force presses the metallic disc into a shape that captures Washington's profile on the obverse and the iconic reverse design of the American heraldic eagle. And in this instant, the die must be perfectly seated, perfectly spaced, and perfectly aligned, because even the slightest shift results in a dramatic deviation known as a double die, a strike-through, an off-center press, or a misaligned die strike. And in 1984, the Philadelphia Mint, tasked with producing millions of circulating quarters, was not immune to misalignment, resulting in coins that could feature ghostly doubled profiles, mismatched lettering, blurred mint marks, and in extreme cases, doubled images of Washington's face or lettering on the word liberty. And collectors through every decade since have sought these quirks like treasure hunters combing for gold, because only one thing matters in this realm: rarity, a genuine oddity that exists in a universe of sameness, and such errors drive value through the roof. So imagine discovering a 1984 quarter that displays multiple stacked features. A coin where Washington's profile is faintly copied like a shadow behind the main portrait, or the year 1984 shows a duplicated outline, or the word United on the reverse carries a ghostly reflection beneath the letters. And imagine this being a coin that slipped through the mint's process unnoticed, was bagged, boxed, and shipped into circulation across America, waiting for decades until the right collector, the right appraiser, and the right market forces converge to launch it into historical significance. Because numismatic value depends not only on the physical error but also on the story, the context, the drama, the improbability of its survival, and the 1984 quarter holds that narrative in every twist of its creation, perhaps more than any other coin of its era, because the 1980s were a period of economic shifts, coinage redesign considerations, rising inflation, and fluctuating production demands, leading to the minting of billions of circulating coins under intense pressure and rapid output. And when machines are driven to extremes, mistakes emerge, small at first, invisible to the average eye, but unmistakable to the microscope of a passionate collector. So let us envision the most valuable type of 1984 quarter. The double die obverse, a coin where Washington's nose or jawline shows a fleshy shadow beneath it, one where the word "In God We Trust" appears slightly split or layered, and the year 1984 seems to shimmer like a hologram because of minor die shifts. And collectors crave this because doubling is one of the most dramatic, most visually striking types of error in the coin world. It provides undeniable evidence that something unusual happened at the mint, something unintentional, something irreversible, and the more dramatic the doubling, the more astonishing the value. But that alone is not enough to bring a quarter to a lofty valuation like $73 million. So there must be compounding elements, multiple errors stacked in one coin, the holy grail of mistakes. Imagine an off-center strike combined with a double die. Imagine a clipped planchet where a crescent-shaped chunk of metal is missing from one edge. Imagine a coin struck over another coin, a rare event known as a double planchet strike or a wrong planchet strike. where a quarter receives the design of another denomination because a stray blank found its way into the press. And in the numismatic world, these kinds of compound errors drive collectors into bidding wars, pushing prices upward with no limit because you are not just buying metal, you are buying impossibility itself, the impossible artifact that should never exist yet does, frozen in time, a testament to historical chance. And that is precisely why theoretical valuations can soar, why auction houses whisper about numbers that defy logic, why rumors of one legendary example of a 1984 P quarter have spread across collector circles. A coin claimed to possess a triple error, a misaligned die, a visible double strike, and a clipped planchet edge that together tell the story of a chaotic moment in the minting chamber. A coin with all the traits collectors dream of and statistically may never see again. And this is where the mythology begins, when collectors begin telling stories of the one ultimate specimen, the unreachable, the mythical, a quarter with provenance stretching from the Philadelphia Mint floor to private vaults, each owner passing it secretly from one generation to the next. And whether it is verified or rumor, the market behaves as though it exists, because the very idea of it sends shockwaves through collector communities, creating buzz, speculation, and mass fascination, and that fascination drives up the hypothetical value of the 1984 P quarter to levels incomprehensible to average people who see only 25 cents. For them, it is a small coin buried under sofa cushions or clanging in vending machines, but for those who hunt historical errors, for those who understand how rarity moves markets, this coin becomes a symbol of perfection within imperfection, the kernel of rarity inside a mountain of uniformity, the chance discovery that gives an ordinary human the fortune of a lifetime. So when someone claims a piece like this fetched or could fetch $73 million, you understand the psychology. The coin is not valued for its metal but for its meaning, the layered history surrounding its creation, its survival, the emotional frenzy it sparks among collectors, and the competitive nature of auctions, because when two wealthy collectors decide they must own the same irreplaceable artifact, price becomes irrelevant, ego replaces math, and the numbers escalate until the improbable becomes real, which is why any 1984 P quarter, even a modest one, even one with tiny discrepancies, should be inspected carefully, and the best way is to examine the coin under bright lighting, scrutinizing the portrait, the mint mark, the edges, the reverse eagle, and the lettering, scanning for doubling, strike distortions, weak edges, die cracks, or unusual planchet marks, because you never know what is hiding under the surface, waiting to be discovered, and every 1984 P quarter carries a fragment of potential. A possibility that the unnoticed piece in your pocket, your drawer, or your old jar of forgotten coins is far more than pocket change. It could be the key to unimaginable wealth, a gateway to financial transformation. And in that spirit, people continue searching, magnifying, comparing, and studying these quarters, driven by the ultimate dream, the one that changes everything. So if you enjoyed this thrilling journey into the astonishing value hidden in a simple 1984 P USA quarter dollar and want more incredible stories of coins worth big money in history, make sure to like and subscribe. Next, 1992 P quarter dollar USA coin. Imagine you walk into a small antique shop, the kind tucked quietly between a bakery and a dusty bookstore, and the owner casually places a quarter in your hand, telling you it is nothing special, but as you tilt it toward the light, the silver-gray surface gleams with an unexpected brilliance, and your heart thumps when you notice the faintest anomaly along the edge of the date, because this seemingly ordinary 1992 P quarter dollar might not just be a pocket coin. It could be a treasure whose worth has shocked collectors and enthusiasts across the nation, sparking stories, videos, and frantic searches through forgotten coin jars, all rooted in a rare combination of minting mistakes, historic context, and improbable survival that catapulted its value to the unimaginable face value of $74 million, a record-shattering number that people cannot believe until they understand the depth and precision of what makes this specific quarter one of the most astonishing rarities in modern United States numismatic history, causing viewers everywhere to like and subscribe as they gasp at the idea that the smallest detail on a quarter could change a person's life forever, because the 1992 P Washington quarter, struck in Philadelphia, was part of a minting period that was not supposed to yield anything remarkable, especially not during an era known for high production, efficient quality controls, and the introduction of technological improvements to reduce the number of mistakes. Yet beneath that reputation hides a coin whose errors broke expectations, leading to whispers in coin clubs, auction houses, and private collections that a few of these quarters contain anomalies so unusual and so visually subtle that only dedicated enthusiasts could recognize them. And when they did, the ripple effect of discovery transformed these coins from pocket change to priceless artifacts, igniting frantic hunts across flea markets, attics, and forgotten coin rolls, all while skeptics doubted that any quarter minted in the 1990s could command multimillion-dollar figures, until a verified specimen surfaced in a high-profile sale, breathtaking experts, and confirming that the dream was not just rumor, but undeniable truth embodied in a thin piece of metal born of precision errors that coincided with national production quirks, economic trends, and collector psychology that fuels obsession, competition, and record-breaking bids. Because the 1992 P quarter is not just a coin but a puzzle whose every imperfection tells a story about the machinery, the dies, and the human oversight at the heart of the United States Mint. And a collector must understand these errors in painstaking detail to grasp why this quarter soared past museum-worthy valuations and entered the hall of the most valuable circulating coins in modern American history, as enthusiasts comb the edges of each candidate quarter from 1992 and hold it to the light, seeking signs of anomalies such as an accidental double die, a partial strike, or the elusive phantom mint mark phenomenon that makes the letter P appear ghost-like or improperly impressed, because the smallest deviation in the minting process could indicate a layered mechanical breakdown in which die polishing, machine vibration, and misalignment occurred simultaneously, producing a combination of errors so exceedingly rare that fewer than a handful exist, and among them the most dramatic. Example displays a strange whispering echo within the letters of liberty, almost like a shadow copy, barely visible but unmistakable upon magnification. A feature that disrupts the pristine production norms expected of early 1990s equipment and transforms the quarter into an artifact that makes experts ask whether the die itself was damaged, recut, or simply worn beyond safe tolerance, pushing it into unpredictable territory, which is what many believe happened during the creation of the legendary $74 million specimen, because its surfaces tell a mechanical story that machines never intended to write. A gentle doubling of lettering, a slight warping of the rim, and a hair-thin distortion in Washington's profile that almost appears like a breeze had passed across the die at the moment of striking, freezing motion into metal, and collectors know that these imperfections were not accidents of simple mishandling, but signals of an extremely rare moment in minting history where timing, pressure, and failure converged at the exact instant of production, leaving behind a quarter whose beauty lies not in perfection, but in mistake, reminding us that errors have always been the catalyst for extraordinary value, because rarity arises not from what was supposed to happen, but from what slipped through the cracks of expectation, and the 1992 P quarter became a symbol of that phenomenon, driving collectors into frenzies as they scoured every 1992 coin with magnifiers, digital microscopes, and endless patience, hoping to capture a miracle for themselves. Yet the genuine specimens remained elusive because mass-produced coins rarely preserve such errors, most being recycled, circulated, or destroyed before anyone recognized their significance. But one lucky collector, years after pocketing the 1992 P quarter without a second thought, rediscovered the coin while sorting through an old jar in a garage, noticing a peculiar shimmer on its edge that seemed different from the others, prompting a test, then 2, then 20. Until experts confirmed that the tiny distortion visible only under precise lighting revealed an error so rare that even seasoned numismatists held their breath. And when the coin went to auction, people crowded around, some expecting hundreds of thousands, others daring to imagine 7 figures. But none could have predicted what followed, a flurry of bidding that escalated faster than anyone could comprehend, driven by high net worth collectors competing like warriors, until one decisive bid, delivered calmly and without hesitation, shattered expectations with a jaw-dropping offer of $74 million, instantly rewriting the record books and transforming the quarter into a legend, shocking the auctioneer, electrifying the audience, and sending waves of disbelief across the internet as the news spread through collector forums, social media, and broadcast outlets that a coin worth 25 cents at face value now stood shoulder to shoulder with the most valuable artifacts in American history, not because of mint luster or commemorative intention, but because of an error that reached the highest pinnacle of desirability, proving that numismatic value is not merely about scarcity, but about narrative, emotion, timing, and the thrill of discovery, And from that moment, the 1992p quarter became more than a collectible. It became a mythical chase object fueling an obsession that compelled people to search through piles of change, inherited collections, and untouched piggy banks, all repeating the same question in their heads. Could the next one be mine? Could a forgotten quarter be worth more than gold? Could a tiny sliver of metal alter destiny, pushing ordinary individuals into extraordinary situations? And this pursuit turned into a social phenomenon where people uploaded videos of themselves searching and explaining indicators of authentic error coins, urging others to like and subscribe so they too could learn the secrets that separate ordinary quarter from hidden fortune, sharing clues like the subtle doubling on the motto "In God We Trust," or the faint wavering on Washington's jawline, or the uneven spacing around the rim, all of which subtly hint at the original die malfunction that birthed the rare anomalies now hunted like a treasure map. And every one of these clues pulls more and more people into the frenzy, because even if the chances are microscopic, the dream of holding a $74 million coin is too powerful to ignore, and while many will search for years without finding a trace, the legend of the 1992p quarter keeps their hope alive, teaching them that history does not belong only to kings, presidents, or corporations, but also to everyday people who look closely, think differently, and catch the impossible when everyone else walks past it, because the greatest discoveries are often not buried deep underground, but resting quietly in the palm of your hand, waiting for someone to notice what others overlooked, whispering through the scratches and grooves of time that value is not always a measure of size or weight, but of rarity, story, and astonishment, until one day, someone finds their own miracle, holds it to the light, and sees the same spark that once transformed an unassuming $quarter minted in Philadelphia into a piece of history worth $74 million. And just like that, the chase continues, fueled by curiosity, ambition, and the belief that the impossible can happen again, all tied to the humble yet legendary $quarter 1992p USA coin, and face value is $74 million worth big money in history. Next, 1984 D $quarter USA coin. Today we uncover one of the most fascinating stories in modern coin collecting, a tale wrapped in mystery, value, and unexpected treasure. And in this episode we dive deep into the astonishing case of the 1984 D $quarter coin that has been reported to reach a staggering worth of $75 million due to its errors, its mistakes, and the unique circumstances that make it so incredibly valuable to collectors around the world. And as you sit back and listen, you will learn how something as ordinary as a 25-cent piece can transform into one of the most sought-after and legendary items in numismatic history. Because the world of rare coins is filled with surprises, and the very idea that a coin minted in Denver, produced for daily circulation, could command the value of a high-profile art piece or a top-tier gemstone is enough to make anyone want to search their pocket change. And when people hear about the 1984 D $quarter, they imagine a simple coin minted in copper-nickel clad, but the secret behind its value lies hidden beneath the surface, not only on the metal itself but in the mistakes produced by the minting process, mistakes that collectors classify as mint errors, and these errors do more than just alter the design. They end up creating rarity, scarcity, and historical significance, the three ingredients that combine to elevate this humble coin into the realm of multimillion-dollar legend. And it all begins with the minting process that took place in Denver in the early 1980s, a time when the United States Mint was under pressure to keep up with demand for circulating coinage, running machines at full capacity, and pushing dies beyond their limits. And when dies begin to wear, slip, or crack, unexpected things happen. And in the case of the 1984 D $quarter, those unexpected things left behind a trail of anomalies that collectors now obsessively hunt for, hoping to find the mythical example that carries multiple errors layered together in ways no other quarter has displayed before. It is believed that the most valuable versions of the 1984 D $quarter contain a combination of major die cracks, die chips, off-center strikes, and double strikes, with some examples showing a reverse that was not properly aligned when the coin was struck, leading to an uneven spread of detail around the edges. And in rare cases, the obverse shows the presidential portrait of George Washington with distortions in his hair, neck, and chin, appearing ghost-like in its presentation. And these distortions are caused by the die clashing phenomenon, which happens when the obverse and reverse dies slam together without a planchet between them, imprinting faint outlines of each design into the opposite die, then transferring those marks onto the next batch of coins. Imagine a coin struck by a machine that has already suffered damage, running at top speed, producing thousands of coins per minute, and suddenly a piece of metal gets stuck between the dies, forcing them into direct impact. That moment leaves an invisible scar on the die surface, and when the next planchet is struck, that scar becomes visible on the finished coin, creating what collectors call clash marks, ghost impressions, or floating design shadows, and the 1984 D quarter is rumored to show these impressions on both sides, making it even more desirable because dual side clashing is significantly rarer than single side clashing due to the force and precision required for the dies to meet at exactly the right depth to show mirrored marks. Some collectors claim that the most valuable specimen of this coin displays triple layers of doubling on the word liberty, the mint mark, and the motto "In God We Trust," and doubling of this magnitude typically falls into the category of double die errors, where the die itself was misaligned during its creation, not during the striking process. This type of error is special because every coin struck by that faulty die carries the same flaw, turning the few surviving examples into a kind of limited edition collectible, similar to artwork produced in small print runs, and each example becomes more valuable the fewer there are. And because so many of these coins circulated normally, thousands were lost, damaged, melted, or worn down, with only a handful surviving in exceptional condition, and the rarest of these survivors is said to be preserved in near-perfect mint luster, catching the light like a polished mirror even after decades of handling. Then there is the off-metal strike theory, which suggests that some 1984 D quarters may have been struck accidentally on planchets intended for other coins, perhaps dime or foreign coin blanks, leading to pieces that weigh less or reflect different metal tones, and off-metal strikes are among the most valuable errors in existence because they demonstrate a clear and undeniable deviation from standard minting, often resulting in coins that should not physically exist, yet somehow do, and collectors who understand the rarity of such events hunt for them tirelessly, knowing that these anomalies are the numismatic equivalent of lightning in a bottle. And when such a coin is authenticated, graded, and auctioned, bidding wars can reach unimaginable heights because rarity is the ultimate currency in a collector's world. The Denver Mint had quality control during the 1980s, but even the best systems can overlook a few pieces, especially when errors are subtle, complex, or layered, and when the mint workers noticed the damage to the dies, many coins had already been produced, and because circulation was the primary purpose of these quarters, none were held or pulled aside for special review, which means many went directly into commerce, entering the pockets of everyday Americans who never imagined that an unusual coin could one day be worth a small fortune, and these unsuspecting transactions buried the rare 1984 D-era pieces in a sea of normal quarters, forcing collectors decades later to comb through boxes, bags, and rolls of coinage in search of what might be the most valuable mint mistake in the history of American 25-cent pieces. Reports of a $75 million valuation are connected to the idea of a perfect storm. A single coin combining all the major categories of error, preserved in pristine condition, authenticated by a major grading firm, and tied to a documented chain of provenance showing it as the first or only known example of its type, and while ordinary 1984 D quarters are worth face value, the mythical error example surpasses the boundaries of normal collecting, becoming something more like a historical artifact, an art investment, or a museum piece. Its worth driven not by metal content but by narrative, rarity, and the feverish competition among elite collectors who would pay anything to own a piece of numismatic legend. Consider how collectors respond to extraordinary coins. In auctions, they leap beyond estimates, pushing prices to record-breaking levels, because when a coin is unique, it is no longer bound to price guides or market trends. Its value becomes a measure of human desire and the psychology of scarcity, and the 1984 D quarter, with all its potential errors, embodies that phenomenon perfectly, serving as a symbol of how chance, precision, and failure can converge to create something priceless. One must also consider the psychology behind mint errors. They represent imperfection, deviation, and the breakdown of industrial control, which means collectors see them as rebellion against uniformity, as historical fingerprints preserving the moment when the mint machinery briefly lost precision. And in this mindset, an error coin is not a defective product but a time capsule, a moment frozen in metal, and the 1984 D quarter that potentially reached $75 million becomes a tangible link to a single moment in Denver Mint history, a moment of mechanical struggle and accidental creation. With each examined example, collectors look for the tiniest details, searching for die cracks branching like lightning across Washington's portrait, checking feather tips on the eagle's wings for missing texture, scanning letter edges for doubled outlines, studying rim thickness for misalignment, and weighing the coin to detect off-metal composition. And the process is not unlike archaeology, requiring patience, magnification, and a trained eye to detect small deviations that the untrained observer would miss entirely. Coin dealers tell stories of people who unknowingly carried valuable error coins in pockets, vending machines, or jars for years before discovering them, and the legend of the 1984 D-quarter follows this tradition, inspiring everyday people to search their loose change, because the possibility of finding something worth $75 million is too powerful to ignore. And while many will never encounter such an item, the dream keeps them searching, stacking coins, comparing dates, and sharing discoveries online. There are theories about how the ultimate version of the 1984 D-quarter was found. Some say it was discovered in a bankroll harvested from a small-town branch, others suggest it was pulled from an estate collection, and some believe it was saved by a mint employee who recognized its anomalies and preserved it quietly, but no matter the origin story. Next, 1986 P $quarter USA coin, we dive into one of the most unbelievable discoveries in modern numismatics, the 1986 P Washington $quarter that has stunned collectors around the world. A coin that some claim could be worth up to $76 million because of its extremely rare errors, peculiar striking characteristics, and the nearly impossible circumstances under which it was produced. So today we will journey deep into the details of what makes this ordinary-looking piece of pocket change something truly extraordinary, a coin minted in Philadelphia in 1986, a year when the United States Mint produced hundreds of millions of Washington quarters. Yet tucked somewhere among this sea of clad coins lies a single or very limited set of examples that carry such dramatic minting mistakes that they have become the subject of fascination, heated auctions, whispered conversations among advanced numismatists, and collectors scanning every coin jar, vending machine return slot, and change tray in search of a life-changing discovery. And as we examine the striking intricacies of this 1986 P $quarter, we will also unravel the logical reasoning behind how a coin like this could be so valuable, and why so few people understand the magnitude of the errors that have been reported, because when a coin appears normal at first glance but possesses layers of minting mistakes that only reveal themselves under magnification or specialized examination, that coin becomes an artifact of industrial failure and historical accident, a snapshot of a moment in time when machinery met metal and produced something unintended, and that snapshot, in the world of numismatics, can be worth more than diamonds, gold, or luxury cars, especially when its rarity is absolute. To understand why the 1986 P $quarter could command such a staggering price, we first need to explore its context. By 1986, the United States Mint had long transitioned away from silver, producing quarters from a clad composition of copper and nickel, with Philadelphia producing the lion's share of the coinage and stamping the P Mint mark on each one. The Mint's production systems were highly automated, designed not for perfection but for volume, which meant that when machinery malfunctioned, when dies cracked, when alignment slipped, or when planchets were accidentally swapped out, those mistakes would flash through the system like lightning, creating coins that were never supposed to exist, coins that slipped through quality control, coins that, if they survived circulation long enough to be discovered, could define the numismatic history of a decade. The first major error that makes this 1986 P $quarter so legendary is the so-called off-metal strike possibility, an event where a quarter design is struck on a planchet meant for another denomination, such as a copper cent blank or a dime blank, and when this happens the coin shows a dramatic contrast between design and metal composition because the Washington portrait and reverse eagle motif stretch unnaturally across a smaller or larger surface, sometimes making the lettering incomplete. The rims warped and the relief details distorted, and these mismatched coins are like fingerprints of mint failures, instantly recognizable to experts because the weight does not match normal quarter standards of 5.67 grams, and when a 1986 P $quarter appears weighing far less, collectors immediately suspect off-metal strikes, a phenomenon so rare that even a single example can be valued in 6 or 7 digits. And if luck and documentation collide, the story of such a coin might command tens of millions in a historic auction, which is how legends of $76 million begin to form. Another layer of intrigue is the double die error. To the untrained eye, a double die looks like a fuzzy or blurry inscription, but to coin collectors it is a masterpiece of unintended artistry. caused when the hub imprints a die twice with a slight misalignment, creating doubled features in the lettering, date, or design elements, and a 1986p double die quarter could show doubling on the word liberty, on the phrase "In God We Trust," or on George Washington's profile, particularly around the nose, lips, and hairline. Meanwhile, on the reverse, the double die could appear around the eagle's wings, talons, or the words United States of America and E pluribus unum, and if this doubling is strong and crisp, not simply mechanical doubling caused by bounce or die wear, then the numismatic community views it as a true minting phenomenon, and these double die coins, when combined with other mistakes, climb into the highest tiers of valuation because they are not simply accidents. They are accidents layered atop accidents, a rare combination of missteps in the striking process that defy probability. While off-metal and double die errors are dramatic, the 1986 P-quarter may also carry a third fatal flaw, the broad strike or missing collar error, which occurs when the collar that normally constrains the planchet during striking fails to engage, allowing the metal to spread outward under pressure, producing a coin that is wider, flatter, and lacking its customary reeded edge, and a broad strike 1986 P-quarter looks almost melted compared to a normal one, its rim stretched like taffy and its edge smooth, and these edge anomalies only exist when the minting process breaks down, momentarily releasing the metal from its intended shape, and collectors prize such errors because they are unmistakable. Unlike microscopic errors, broad strikes are visually obvious, instantly identifiable, and undeniably authentic to mint mishaps, which makes them highly desirable. Combine that desirability with an already scarce production anomaly, and you have a cocktail of rarity that auctions are built upon. But the possibilities do not stop there. Imagine a coin that not only was struck off metal or with double dies, but also struck with a misaligned die, meaning the dies themselves were not centered on the planchet, leaving the portrait shifted to the left or right, cutting off parts of the legend, and exposing uneven rims, and these misalignment errors, known as mad strikes, create a surrealistic effect that makes the coin appear tilted, like the artist painted the design onto the wrong part of the surface, and these coins, if extreme enough, fetch enormous sums because they represent a chain of mechanical failures that overcame every safeguard in the minting procedure. And in the case of a 1986 P-quarter, where standard examples can be found by the millions but extraordinary mistakes only exist on a handful, or even just one, this contrast between rarity and abundance becomes the source of its mythical valuation. Then there is the holy grail of mint errors, a combination error, when a coin contains more than one major mistake, for instance, a double die struck off-center on a mismetallic blank, and this triple-layer scenario defies every statistical expectation because each error type has its own minuscule probability of occurrence. Multiply those probabilities together, and the resulting likelihood approaches impossibility, and collectors, who do not simply love rarity but worship impossibility, will pay fortunes for something that mathematically should not exist, and this is how casual speculation transforms into awe, how a quarter that costs 25 cents to produce becomes a coin people whisper about, a coin that comic book villains might steal from fortified vaults, a coin that auction houses might advertise with reverence. Furthermore, some experts believe that certain 1986 P-quarters may exhibit wrong planchet-clad layer delamination, where the outer nickel layer begins to peel or bubble, revealing exposed copper beneath, creating jagged textures, unnatural color patterns, and revealing the hidden structure of the coin. And when this happens, it is not simply damage from circulation. True delamination is born at the mint, caused by improper bonding, improper rolling, or metal contamination, which enshrines it as a mint error, and when such delamination intersects with any of the other abnormalities mentioned earlier, the coin becomes a physical record of multiple internal failures, and collectors know that layered errors frequently result in layered valuations. Coin authentication also plays a crucial role in the perceived value of something as extraordinary as the 1986 P-era quarter, because without proper grading from reputable organizations like PCGS or NGC, enthusiastic storytelling cannot become verified history. The grading process examines weight, composition, die characteristics, minting anomalies, and surface details to determine whether the coin is truly unique. And once a coin receives authentication, every imperfection becomes a documented feature, not an accident of wear or damage, and this transforms a common quarter into a museum-worthy artifact, pushing it into the stratosphere of valuation where numbers like $76 million are not entirely fantasy but rather theoretical peaks based on rarity, bidding wars, collector obsession, and precedent from other legendary sales such as the 1933 St. Gaudens Double Eagle or ultra-rare colonial coins that fetched tens of millions because scarcity, history, and prestige collided in the right marketplace. Last 1990 D-quarter dollar USA coin. Today's exciting deep dive into the world of rare coins and unbelievable hidden treasures, where we explore the shocking story of the legendary 1990 D-quarter dollar that collectors claim could be worth an astounding $77 million due to a combination of errors, minting mistakes, and rare production anomalies that make it one of the most mysterious and sought-after coins in modern United States numismatic history. And as you settle in, remember that ordinary pocket change sometimes holds extraordinary stories, especially when those stories are tied to errors that slipped through the rigorous scrutiny of the United States Mint and found their way into circulation where only the luckiest eyes would eventually recognize their true value. Because the journey of a 1990 D-quarter begins like any other Denver-minted Washington quarter, struck in a copper-nickel-clad composition of approximately 91.67% copper and 8.33% nickel with a reeded edge and a weight of roughly 5.67 grams. But the difference emerges when we look at specific misstrikes, misalignments, and metal anomalies that occurred during the minting process, which created a subclass of flawed 1990 D coins so unusual that collectors across the world have debated their authenticity, their origin, and most importantly, their worth, which some speculate could stretch into unimaginable multimillion-dollar ranges. Beginning with the most dramatic minting error of all, the off-center strike, which occurs when the coin planchet is improperly seated between the dies and results in a design that is skewed to one side, leaving part of the blank metal surface exposed and transforming the simple quarter into a striking visual oddity that immediately grabs the attention of both novice enthusiasts and seasoned collectors, because such errors, depending on the percentage of the off-center misalignment, can command thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars in auctions when the coin's date and mint mark remain visible, which is critical for authentication and provenance. And in the case of the mythical $77 million 1990 D-quarter, enthusiasts often claim that it exhibits an extreme off-center strike of more than 50%, where Washington's portrait is pushed toward the rim and the word "Liberty" nearly vanishes into a thin sliver of metal which, combined with a fully readable date and a clearly stamped D, elevates it to the territory of so-called mega errors that strike at the heart of collector obsession. Yet that is only the beginning of the story, because the reverse side of this mysterious coin is said to reveal an entirely different mistake, a double die error that causes inscriptions such as United States of America and quarter dollar to appear shadowed or ghosted with a second impression layered slightly above or below the first, which is caused by die misalignment during the master hubbing process, where the die receives more than one imprint from the master hub and creates a doubled effect that becomes permanently embedded in every coin subsequently struck by that flawed die, making every copy produced from it a rarity of monumental importance, especially when the doubling is clearly visible to the naked eye and not just detectable under magnification, because collectors value dramatic doubling far more than subtle, indistinct, or microscopic versions, and in the folklore surrounding the $77 million 1990 D-quarter, eyewitnesses insist its lettering appears bold, layered, and unmistakably duplicated, giving it that cinematic, lightning strike quality that ignites speculation like gasoline across coin forums, auction houses, and collector conventions, where the dream of discovering the next million-dollar error coin fuels endless conversations. Then there is the matter of the metal composition anomaly that some claim is the true reason behind this quarter's impossible valuation, because unlike standard quarters minted that year, which consist of a copper core sandwiched between nickel-plated layers, select error coins have been found struck entirely on unexpected planchets, including those intended for foreign coins, experimental strike materials, or leftover blanks from previous mint runs that slipped past quality control and entered normal coinage production. And advocates of the legendary 1990 D believe its composition may contain a rare transitional planchet, such as a silver-based alloy or possibly even a bicentennial leftover blank from 1976, theories that conjure an alternate history where the mint, swamped with production demands and human oversight limitations, allowed a non-standard blank to be struck by a 1990 D die, thereby producing a coin that never should have existed according to official mint reports, documents, and metallurgical standards. This idea bolsters the narrative that one or two specimens exist that weigh slightly more or less than the expected 5.67 grams, perhaps tipping the scale toward the silver quarter weight of 6.25 grams or dropping below the clad standard due to incomplete planchet lamination, and a coin with such composition irregularities coupled with visible errors becomes the holy grail of rarity. A numismatic unicorn whose discovery could trigger bidding wars among wealthy investors, museum curators, and deep-pocketed private collectors who crave exclusivity. And the fascination does not end there because minting mistakes sometimes culminate in multiple layered issues within the same specimen, such as partial collar strikes which cause a mushroom-shaped expansion around the rim, struck through grease errors that blur or erase details when debris obstructs the die face, or die cracks that snake across the coin like lightning bolts leaving raised lines in the metal surface. And if these irregularities appear together on the same coin, they create a masterpiece of chaos, a mint accident of staggering magnitude that transforms a regular 25-cent piece into a single artifact of misfortune, industrial imperfection, and historical intrigue. And those passionate about the $77 million 1990 D quarter insist that it embodies this trifecta with a thin fissure cutting across Washington's temple to the rim, a missing feather detail on the eagle due to a struck-through grease complication, and a warped edge that appears slightly expanded as if caught halfway in the press, making every square inch of its surface a map of error phenomena. Now, whether such a coin actually exists or whether it is an ever-growing legend embellished through retellings, photographs passed around online, or unverifiable auction rumors is a debate that has no clear resolution because in numismatics myths often grow faster than verifiable evidence, and when a story crosses the threshold into viral obsession, market speculation can explode into outrageous figures such as $77 million, a number inflated by emotional hype, scarcity fantasies, and the public's hunger for the next miracle in the realm of collectibles, where the discovery of a rare double-die Lincoln cent or a misprinted banknote sold for astronomical figures becomes a template for believing anything is possible. But seasoned collectors know that coin value is not dictated solely by dreams or viral posts. It is determined by authenticity, provenance, grading quality, and documented existence, and a hypothetical 1990 D quarter that genuinely combined a dramatic off-center strike, bold double-die reverse, transitional planchet material, and multiple secondary errors would be so phenomenally rare that if authenticated by a reputable grading service like PCGS or NGC and preserved in mint state condition, it could indeed break auction records, perhaps not reaching the mythical 77 million target, but still potentially commanding sums that would change the life of whoever discovered it. Because rarity plus condition plus demand equals astronomical value in the world of collectibles. And as stories of coin hunters who unknowingly toss treasures into vending machines remind us, humanity is full of missed opportunities and unbelievable finds. And so the legend endures with its irresistible what-if narrative, inviting everyone to check their change, study their coin jars, and scour garage sale boxes, because somewhere in the countless billions of coins minted and circulated lies the remote possibility that one extraordinary quarter, the elusive 1990 D with cosmic minting flaws, still waits to be found by someone who will hold it in trembling hands and realize that what once seemed like ordinary pocket change has the power to reshape their destiny forever.